Hey everybody, it's Mama to Life for One, and thank you guys so much for clicking on this video. If this is your first time, I'm a content creator, a social media influencer, a mommy, a wife, an editor, and published author, a writer, a public speaker. I do a little bit about everything when it comes to communications. But you didn't click on this video to learn about me. You clicked on this video because you want to hear my thoughts on season 3, episode 5 of Bridgerton. Before I start my review and my recap and observations that I had. Make sure that you like this video, share the video to whoever likes Bridgerton, like we do, obviously, because you clicked on the video because you obviously love the show as much as I do. Like, share, subscribe to my channel, and definitely comment below. Let me know what parts of the episode I missed, what parts of the episode were your favorite, were your least favorite, were you surprised by anything that happens? Whatever your comments are, I would love to read them. So, as usual, when I recap Bridgerton, because there's so much going on, there's so many storylines to follow, I typically break up the episode based off of the characters as opposed to going in chronological order. So, it may be a little scattered, and I apologize for that in advance. But again, it's just a lot of stuff happening. So we'll say with the Mondridge family, there wasn't a lot of stuff going on with them, fortunately, because that's been my complaint since probably episode 2 or 3 that we're seeing too much of this family. I simply don't care. Some people are excited, like, oh, we get to see more of them. I don't think we need to see them. I don't think they're important to the story at all. It just seems a waste to me. What the heck do I know? Regardless, the son who was the Baron, who was the reason why the Mondra just have this money now, he is learning how he's like basically has this lesson of his forks and his knives, like learning what fork goes where, what knife goes where, because he's a person of the ton now. He's the reason his family are members of the ton. So he has to learn some of the social graces. So he's learning that the daughter mounted her first horse, and it seems like the wife Alice is definitely embracing this lifestyle like her husband has been telling her to, while he's still holding on to the past. He's still holding on to his bar, and he's trying to figure out, why am I losing so much money? So many people have withdrawn their membership from the bar. I don't know how we're going to keep this going. And it's because people of the ton do not work. So he's struggling to hold on to his old life and his old way of thinking with this new life. While his wife kind of had the same issue in the beginning, but she took her husband's advice and now she's embracing it. Like, this is our life now. Let's just enjoy it and let's, be all the way in as opposed to one foot in and one foot out. That's pretty much all that happened with them. Kind of glad we didn't see a lot of them. That's pretty much it. Cressida, she trying to figure out how to tell her story without telling all of the episode. But basically, her parents are fed up with the fact that she still can't find a man. This is her third season out. She ain't got a husband yet. So they're arranging for her to marry this dude who was like, I want to say Cressida is probably in her late 20s. This guy that they want her to marry looks like he's possibly in his 60s or so. And at first she's like, oh, maybe it won't be too bad. He'll have money and I can go shopping and I can go to the balls. But then he comes to the house and he basically tells her mother, like, look, I'm a man in good standing. Trust and believe your daughter's gonna be in good hands. But we're not gonna flit about and go to balls like that. Like, we don't be partying like that. So she can go to one dance a month, and that's only the people hosting it are, above board. They gotta be moral people or whatever. We're not gonna do all this fashion or whatever. Because she was wearing this pink gown because she wears a lot of colors. He's like, we ain't doing all that. He's like, my wife's gonna wear basically black, brown, and beige. Like, we keep it real simple. We need to be all cutesy with it. Also, I don't like music. I think music is heathenous, and we ain't listen to no music at all. And I still want some kids because I love kids. I'll take like 4 or 5 kids. And basically, it's that scene I understood was meant to really hammer home the position of women during that time. If you are unmarried, the goal is to get you a husband. That husband has full control and full reign over you. And all, because she basically just sat there and just listened to him. Because it's not like he was saying, like, oh, how many kids would you like? It was like, no, this is how many kids I want. This is what she's going to be wearing. She ain't going to be doing this. She ain't going to be doing that. And that's what it should. And her mother was like, oh, that sounds lovely. Because what else is she going to say? Because the mother, even though she's married, she has no control either. The only women who really have control are the women who have been widowed, or the women who are not part of the ton, who are the working women. They kind of get to set their own rules and all that stuff. But then the bad side of that is that you're not a member of the ton. You're not really getting that money and that respect. The worlds are kept very separate. So Cressida understands her plight, and she's like, I got to figure out a way to get out of this. So meanwhile, while this is going on, the last episode, we saw that Colin and Penelope, well, proposed to Penelope, and we assume she said yes. We never heard her say yes, but obviously she says she's in love with him. So the episode starts with him going to his family home, holding her hand, bringing her in, and telling his family, hey, we're engaged. So this sets off a sets off a domino effect, right? Because the family's excited, with the exception of Eloise, who is very disgruntled. But I can't tell if she's mad because she didn't know that they were dating, or just simply because she's still beefing with Penelope for being Lady Whistledown. I was kind of unclear about what exactly she's the most upset about. One thing that bothers me is she questions me, like, "How long has this been going on? How long have you liked my brother?" I'm like, how do you not know that this chick, your best friend, has been in love with your brother forever? Like, how are you that blind that you haven't seen that? And again, it hits home the point that people do not see Penelope. You know, she's a good listener, and so that's why Eloise likes talking to her, and she makes Colin feel seen, and that's why he likes talking to her. But there's so many people who just really don't see Penelope for who she really is. You've ignored these signs all this time. It never dawned on you to question why, whenever your brother would go on these excursions and he's traveling out of the country, it never dawned on me that the only people who wrote to him was a couple members of your family and Penelope. I have a brother. I've never once thought of sending letters to one of his friends to be like, "Oh, hey, how's it going? And how's your trip here?" We don't do that. So you never thought that was suspicious? So that kind of made me irritated, Eloise, honestly. And so in the midst of all this, as Lady Whistledown, Penelope writes a new issue announcing her engagement to Colin. And this is the way her family finds out. She does not go to her family and say, "Hey, by the way, Colin proposed to me." They find out by reading Lady Whistledown. Everyone finds about Lady Whistledown, including the Queen. And the Queen could care less about that engagement. She's more concerned about, dang, okay, what is Lady Whistledown going to write about me? I named Francesca as my sparkle, or my sparkler, whatever, for the season. And she's not with the guy that I set up for her. And I know Lady Whistledown was at the party. She's going to say something about it. What is she going to say? And Penelope mentions it, but she basically like, "Oh, it seems like it's a fine match. Francesca is chilling with Lord Kilmartin. That seems like it's gonna be a good idea." And she doesn't mock the queen. She doesn't like call the queen's judgment into question like she would normally do. So the queen sees this as, "Oh, she's weak. It's my time to strike. I need to find out who she is." And so the queen puts out a royal decree to the whole ton. Whoever is able to unmask Whistledown is gonna get £5,000. So of course Penelope sees this and she's freaked out, like, "Oh my gosh, now there's a bounty on my head. Like, why is this chick doing this? I don't get it." Cressida sees the same thing, and she's reading the royal decree while this old man is telling her, "I'm trying to knock you up with some babies, and you can't wear no colors, and you can't listen to music." So she's like, "I got to figure out a way out of this." And again, in this day and age, as a woman, your options are extremely limited. But she's like, in her head, she's thinking, if I can unmask Lady Whistledown, I can take this money. It may not last me forever, but I can take this money and I can run away and live a life on my own. I don't have to worry about being married. I don't have to worry about pleasing my parents anymore. I can start just writing my own ticket, because the whole point, again, of getting married is because these women do not have money on their own for the most part, unless you are a working woman. If you're a woman of the ton, your money comes from your husband or it comes from your parents. She has a dowry, but I think her dad has been threatening to lower the dowry by half because she ain't found a man yet. And so she has no money of her own. She doesn't work. She doesn't have anything. So she's concocted this plan that I'm going to unmask Lady Whistledown. But nobody really believes that she's clever enough to do it. But she's determined this is how I'm going to get my freedom. So, again, in the midst of all this, and I said I'm going to go couple by couple or whatever. And I'm not doing that because I remember the episode. I just saw it. So we'll continue to run with it. With the Bridgerton family, Kate and Anthony have come back. Kate is knocked up, which is great. We're happy she's pregnant. Yay! When they come back, they found out about Colin's engagement. So they're like, okay, let's not tell people because we don't want to ruin, that news. So Anthony and Benedict talk to Colin. They're like, when did this all happen? This is so sudden. And he says a line that I really enjoyed. Let me see if I can find it. Colin said, He said that his feelings for Penelope are not a thunderbolt from the sky. I love how poetic they write things. And I just like the way it was phrased. Basically, I like Penelope. I really care for her. Maybe I've always cared for her. I wasn't hit like right away, like, "Oh my gosh, I love her," blah, 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 like he kind of was with Marina. And if you've been watching Bridgerton since season 1, you know who Marina is. But with Marina, it was definitely kind of lust at first sight. Oh my gosh, I'm so enamored, blah, blah, blah. Penelope wasn't like that. Penelope was his friend first. And so these feelings, regular feelings, started to build. And then all of a sudden, he looked up one day, "Oh my gosh, I love this woman." And so Anthony was like, "Well, it's great that you like her. You need to go tell her." So he immediately goes to her house to tell her. When he gets there, he hears Lady Featherington talking to Penelope and basically berating her and mocking her for her engagement to Colin. She was like, the engagement that you could have had with Lord Devlin, that was a stable thing. You know, you basically just have a crush on the neighbor boy. I don't know what you did to entrap him, but basically making it seem like this is not a real engagement. There's no way this is going to last. There's no way that one of the most popular eligible bachelors in the whole ton actually wants you. It's basically what she tells her in, not those words specifically. That's basically the gist of it. So Colin comes in and he hears her and he starts berating her himself. And again, it's very indicative of the position of men in the ton compared to women. Because in my head, I'm the lady of this house, right? Portia, that's Lady Featherington's first name. She's probably in her, she looks good, but I would say maybe late 40s, early 50 ish, right? Colin, I think in the story, in the book at least, he's 33. So we'll say he's probably about that. So in normal society, if I'm a woman of a certain age in my 50s, and this boy or this man comes and tries to talk to me and he's in his 30s, whether he's a man or not, he's still going to respect the fact that I'm older and I'm going to get my just due as his elder. That's not how it works in Bridgerton. Because she starts saying something, he was like, I am not done talking. And in my head, I was like, what the freaking thing you talking to? But I had to remember this is the ton. So in the ton, no matter how old he is, he has rank over this woman simply because he's a man, which is really stupid and dumb. But basically, he tells her, like, look, everything that Penelope basically didn't trap me. I did this out of love. And if you weren't so focused on your standing and your status, you would see that Penelope is really the best thing you got going. Like, she's the best person in your whole family. She's the only eligible person. Don't be, sullying the Bridgerton name. And I love when he said, don't sully our Bridgerton name. He looked to Penelope to basically say, not our Bridgerton name, meaning me and my brothers and sisters, but our Bridgerton name, meaning me and my future wife. The one thing I will say about Colin, it took him a long time to get here, but as soon as he got to this place, he's been all in. This episode, he was like running full force, like, this is going to be my wife. This is it, blah, blah, blah. So after he has that confrontation with Lady Featherington, he takes Penelope to what's going to be their new home. And she's just so overwhelmed. And she's like, no one has ever stood up for me like that. And one of the notes I put down is that Nicola Coughlan, who plays Penelope Featherington, aka Lady Whistledown. She's an amazing actress. She does, and the confrontation that Colin had with her mother, if you look at that scene and look at her facial expressions, she's making so, like, you can see so many different emotions in her face. You see awe, you see surprise, you see pride. You literally see every single emotion just come across her face. And I was like, this woman is amazing. This actress is amazing. So they get to the room, right? Well, they get to the new house, but they're basically in this room that, I don't know if it's a bedroom or if it's a drawing room. And she's telling him, no one has ever stood up for me like that. I really appreciate you don't understand. And he's like, look, I meant every word. I love you. It's the first time he's ever said the words, I love you to her. And she positively melts. She's like, oh my gosh, are you sure? And he's like, of course. And then basically he turns her around to a mirror and he wants to show her what he sees. So he's talking about how brave she is and how she makes him see himself in a way that he never thought possible. And then he starts talking about the physical. And I love the way they shoot this. It's very soft. It's very romantic. He takes a pin out of her hair, and her hair just gently falls, cascades to her shoulders, and the pin in slow motion almost falls into the ground with no sound at all. And he's like, the way your hair does this, and your eyes look like this, and the softness of your mouth, the softness of your skin. Then he like grabs her breast, not grabs, he like gently caresses her breast through the dress and they start kissing. And he's like, look, if you want me to stop, like, let me know. I'll stop. And she's like, I do not wish for you to stop. So he turns her around and the most seductive thing, they're staring in the mirror and he undresses my girl in front of the mirror and we see boobies. I was like, yay, boobies. And I mean, I didn't really say things. I don't care. But, I think it's important again to have this moment with this particular couple because this is a woman who was used to being in the shadows. She's used to, listening to the gossip, whatever, but she's so not afraid of her own shadow necessarily, but she is just more comfortable just being against the wall, being on the sidelines. So to have all the focus on her, even though it was just the two of them in the room, having that singular focus of the man that she has always loved and him telling her how beautiful she is and showing her in the mirror how beautiful she was. It was a great moment. And I feel like that moment gave her like just an extreme amount of confidence and probably made her fall in love with him a little bit more. So he undresses her in front of the mirror. Then he has her lie down and he undresses in front of her. And I will say this, they have sex on the couch, which is fine. I love that she was not shy. She acts shy, but there are moments during this scene where I was like, oh, she knows exactly what, not that she knows what she's doing necessarily, but she's not shy about certain things because she saw his penis and like audibly gulped, which I thought was hilarious. But he's laying down on top of her and she's like, okay, tell me what to do. Like, I want to participate. What do I do? He was like, just touch me anywhere. So she touches his hair, touches his shoulder, and then almost immediately goes for his penis. I was like, oh, you know exactly what that is. You know what it's supposed to do, and you know the kind of impact it's going to have on this man when you touch him. I was like, my girl's not shy. She didn't like caress his back. It wasn't like hesitant, like, hey guys, what is this? It was like, okay, hair, shoulder, let's go to the penis. And he was like, no, don't touch me there yet. No, no, you don't know what's going on. And so he starts preparing her. Now, this is my thing with the preparing thing, right? All these women in the ton, for the most part, until they're married, they are virgins. So in season one, we have a man who teaches a woman how to masturbate so she can get used to her own body. In season two, we have a man who goes down on his soon to be wife before he enters her for the first time. Colin's thing is he plays with her with his hand, right? He did it in the carriage. It was all hot, heavy, whatever. So he does this again here. And I know that they're not going to show the whole scope of how long everything technically lasted. But it's like, if this is her first time, just playing with her a little bit with your hand, that's not enough. You need to, like I'd like to say, you need to dine at her restaurant to really fully prepare her. And another thing that not upset me, because it's not really surprising, but after he does it for a little while, he's like, "Okay, you ready?" And she's like, "Is there more?" I'm like, "You got two older sisters." Now I understand the two older sisters are not necessarily great friends with each other or with Penelope, but you got two older sisters. Neither one of them sisters told you anything about sex. But then I also had to remember they probably didn't think she would ever have sex. They probably didn't think she would ever get a man. But still, that's the job of an older sister is to break that down, especially in that society where, the mothers aren't telling you anything. And even one of the older sisters, after she got married, she still didn't know what sex was because the mother never had that conversation with her. Which I'm surprised about. I feel like Lady Featherington seems like she's very upfront and honest with her girls. And I feel like she would have had the role of Lady Danbury and Queen Charlotte, where she would have drawn out exactly how sex works and given those, drawings to her girls when they were young. She seems like the type of mother that would do that. I'm kind of surprised she hadn't. So I hate the fact that Penelope still didn't know what was going on, still didn't necessarily know, like, oh, but there's more to sex than just you touching me. Yeah, chick. So they end up having sex. She likes it. And she's like, can we do it again? And he's like, oh, yeah, give me 5 to 10 minutes. So she was on the ball. She was like, all right, well, we here now. Let's get it on. She wants to tell him about her being Lady Whistledown, and she's about to, and there's a knock on the door, and it's the servants. Because, of course, there's always a knock on the door. Why wouldn't there be? But before that, she mentions his writings again. And she's like, you promised I could read some more. He's like, oh, yeah, you're right. I did promise. And she seems to be really interested in his writing. And I've mentioned this in the last episode because, again, I read the book. And after I do all the recaps, I think at the end of the last episode or the last YouTube video about the last episode, I'll talk about what I liked and didn't like about the season. And already I can tell that his writing is one of the things that's going to grind my gears this season, but we'll get back to it. So after the engagement's been announced to everybody, the Featherington girls are all sitting around, and the two older sisters, Prudence and Philippa, like I said, they're just snarky. They're always like cutting on each other and cutting on Penelope. And the mother comes in and is like, Featheringtons, we stick together. And she's basically trying to sing a different tune because after Colin bombed her out, she started thinking, like, is he right? Like, is that all I care about? Is that a bad thing to be all I care about? But she admits to her maid, like, how was I to know that the match with Colin and Penelope was a love match? She's like, that's not common for us. And she's maybe speaking about herself because I feel like her middle child, Philippa, she married for love. I don't think Prudence did. But Lady Featherington, she didn't. She married for stability and basically probably just get out of her parents' house. So she doesn't know what that's about. So it didn't dawn on her that could be a possibility for Penelope. So I think I want to say maybe she's having a change of heart, but even her coming to Penelope's aid when the girls were ragging on Penelope, Penelope's looking at her like, I don't know if I believe you. She was like, is this you coming like to my aid? Is this you actually having my back? And she was like, yes. She was like, we've all done wrong, but I aim to change that. This is a brand new day. We're going to celebrate, the two pregnancies and celebrate, your engagement. This is the perfect time for us to band together as a family, right? And then she tells the older girls, look, Penelope's engagement party, I'm going to go with her. The two of you are not coming because I need you guys to get on board with not ragging on your sister anymore. So once you guys, are fully on board with that and, you change your mindset, then we can all be together as a family. And of course, it's a complete, well, it's not a complete 360, it's kind of a 180, but it's just I didn't really know what her intentions were. I couldn't really tell if they were pure. And Penelope immediately goes upstairs and writes another lady whistle down where she talks about her mom. And basically, like, of course she's going to glom onto the Bridgerton family like she always does. Because she doesn't believe that her mother has changed because you don't change in a matter of hours, especially because in that whole speech she gave the girls and gave Penelope about how we need to sit together, she never once apologized for her part in it. She said, yes, I admit I've done this as well. But she never once said she was sorry. She created this environment of the girls, not necessarily competing with each other, but just kind of having a one track mind and being a little snippy with each other because she was snippy with them. But again, nowhere in that speech does she ever say to any of the girls that I'm sorry for what I did or I'm sorry for what I said. So I can understand Penelope being like, I don't know if I necessarily believe you. So they have the engagement party. I'm sure I'm skipping over some stuff, but they go to the engagement party and everybody's in high spirits. They're having a good time. Colin gives a speech to Penelope about how I'm so grateful I have her. I promise not to take it for granted. And Eloise tells her, look, you haven't told my brother yet, and I can tell. If you cannot tell him, I will be merciful and I will tell him for you. You have until midnight tonight to tell him. So the episode is called TikTok because of that. Because during the engagement party, Penelope is looking at the clock. She's hearing it ticking in her head. She sees Eloise giving her dirty looks. And she is like heart palpitating, sweating. She's nervous. She's just like, okay, like, my ticket's about to be blown. So at one point, they're playing charades, a very fancy version of charades, by the way. They're playing charades, and it looks almost like Penelope and Eloise were the ones getting all of the clues correct. So it was very interesting seeing them going back and forth and back and forth. And at one point, though, they start talking about Lady Whistledown, and Penelope just gets flustered and she leaves the room. She goes into like a room somewhere and closes the door, and you just see her holding her chest, and she's having trouble catching her breath because, she's nervous. She's feeling a lot of things. She comes back to the room. Oh, even before she comes back to the room, actually, while she's gone, Francesca has Lord Kilmartin, John Sterling, the man that she likes. We see them early in the episode going on a promenade, basically walking together. It's the most I've ever heard Francesca talk. And you can tell they're very comfortable with each other, that they genuinely like being around each other. And I think that her mom is kind of peeping that, but she's like, I still don't know if this is the best match. I can't really tell. But at the engagement party, John Sterling is telling a story to Francesca's mother and to Anthony and to Kate. And Francesca's mother is looking directly at Francesca. And Francesca's just gazing up at John Sterling with like love in her eyes and just looking smitten. And I think that's when the mother was like, oh, you really like this man. Okay, I understand. It is a love match. It's not traditionally what I would want for you. It definitely wasn't my love match, but I can definitely tell that you care about this man. So, okay, let me view this a little bit differently. And Kate and Anthony finally tell Lady Danbury and Lady Bridgerton that they're expecting a baby, right? So all this happens, and also while this is happening, Cressida is listening to people talk about Lady Whistledown and what will happen when she's unmasked. And like when people find out who she is, first of all, she'll have this money. She'll have freedom to literally do whatever she wants. Nobody's going to marry her because she's a gossip, so she'll be able to escape marriage. She basically gets to just set her own life, basically. And all this Cressida's like, I've been looking for a way to get out of marrying that dude and having my own life. So she concocts this brilliant plan to basically out herself as Lady Whistledown to the entire party. And everybody's looking confused. Nobody's looking angry at her because I think no one believes her. They're like, you? Of all people? Are you sure? And this happens while Penelope's in the room. She's trying to talk to Colin, but she literally cannot catch her breath. And at this point, she's holding her stomach and is like, can barely breathe. Eloise comes over before Cressida makes her announcement to actually out Penelope, But Colin's like, yo, I need you to call a footman or something or get some water for her because like she's not feeling well. So after Cressida makes her announcement, Penelope is looking at Colin and her whole face is just flushed and she literally cannot catch her breath and she ends up passing out, fainting dead on the floor, and that's how the episode ends, right? So my notes. So one thing I said, and I said this before, Colin wastes no time because as soon as they got out of the carriage, him going straight in and saying, "Hey, we're engaged." I was like, I love a man that don't waste no time. Colin is known, I don't say known, but I feel like from this episode on, he is very clear on this is what I want, this is what I'm gonna do to get it, this is how I feel. Like the feelings, as soon as he acknowledges the feelings, are very quick and very strong. And I said, I love a man that knows what he wants. That's always attractive. I asked the question, how did Eloise not see that Penelope had a crush on her brother? And I asked this question too, because this isn't, so are chaperones, I know all the women need chaperones, right? If you're unmarried. But when she leaves with Colin and goes to their new house, a chaperone doesn't follow her. So do you no longer need a chaperone if you're engaged? Is that a rule? Let me know if you know anything about that period in time. I was just kind of curious about that. So Nicola Coughlan is a great actress. She is amazing. I said there's nothing sexier than a man undressing. So this is okay. This is what I'll say. I think there's nothing sexier than a man who is either undressing you or you undressing him, and he stays locked on your eyes because he wants to see your reaction, but he's staying here. His eyes aren't straying anywhere. Your eyes are straying anywhere. Just having that like direct eye contact during that moment is really sexy, really intense, but can be really sexy depending on the person, obviously. I said she didn't shy away from touching his penis, which I loved. Why don't older sisters talk to their young sisters about sex? I said he should have gone down on her. Oh yeah, I asked about Lady Featherington's motivation. Is her motivation that, oh, okay, if I'm on board with all of this and act like I'm happy, this will elevate my family status because the Bridgertons have a higher status than we do? Or was her motivation that Penelope marrying Lord Bridgerton, well, not Lord, marrying Colin, because I don't think he's Lord, and possibly have the babies, that'll give the solicitor off her back. That'll kind of increase her chance of getting the solicitor off her back. Because if you remember from the first or second episode of this season, there's a solicitor who keeps sniffing around the Featherington house because it's run by all women. And in the ton, you have to have a man who is the head of the household. So the way that Lady Featherington's been pushing him off is like, hey, both of my girls are married, or two of my girls are married, rather. Once they have babies, if their baby is a boy, then that boy will be the new Lord Featherington. So just give us some time. They're working on it. They're pregnant now. We got to wait till the babies come to see who's going to be Lord Featherington. But that's like the rule in the time. A man has to rule. And if they don't have boys, then they'll basically find a man who will be appointed as Lord Featherington, whether he's related to the family or not. Again, stupid. Makes no sense. And oh, and I said another observation at the engagement party, Cressida invited herself, which is like, why would you do that knowing that nobody in his family likes you except for Eloise? But I did think it was interesting that at this engagement party, when Colin is giving the speech to Penelope, everyone's kind of in a half circle, which is like a full circle, but Colin's in the middle, toasting his new bride. And I love that or not love, but I observed that Cressida is not part of the circle. She is on the outside hugging the wall. So she now has a position that Penelope has had her entire life. So I thought that was very interesting that in Penelope's moment in the sun, she's officially off the wall as the wallflower. She's in the center of attention, all eyes on her and her soon to be husband, a man she's loved all of her life, while her greatest enemy is on the back wall, still unmarried, still miserable. So I thought that was it was a great shot, and I really appreciated seeing that. That's pretty much all that happens this episode. So we know that in episode 6, we're going to get more drama because we know the wedding is coming up. Cressida is saying that she's Lady Whistledown, how she's going to prove that, who's going to believe her. Is Penelope going to just let her take that crown, or is she going to speak up and say something about it? So if you guys watch Bridgerton, you know that there are 8 episodes in every season. So we officially have 3 more episodes to go. So that means 3 more times saying my lovely face talking about Bridgerton. Yeah, like this video, share this video, comment below what you think is going to happen in the next episode. Tell me what you liked from this episode. What fashion did you like the most? Did you like the sex scene? Did you think it was too raunchy? Do you think it should have been raunchier compared to other seasons of Bridgerton? Do you think that we should have seen more? Let me know. Definitely comment below. And make sure you guys subscribe to my channel. I appreciate it. I love hearing comments from you guys about what I should be covering next. And let me know. Like I said, there are 3 more episodes of Bridgerton. Let me know what show you want me to talk about next. I love watching TV. I don't watch too many reality shows anymore, but I do like watching TV. So let me know if there's some shows you think that I should check out. I would love to review and recap them episode by episode, season by season if I fall in love with the show. But yeah, just comment below and let me know. And I will see you guys soon. Peace.